What is up, everybody? This is Yo Superstar, and welcome back to another video of Battlelands. Now, this one here is going to be an in-depth analysis of these figures I've calculated here to do with the guns and the comparison of them. Now, for the record, the only two things you're going to see in this video are this image and this image here. They're the only two things, and I'm going to talk about all the different columns. So, yeah, that's what it's going to be about, just a pre-warning. Now, there's some really interesting stuff in here about how quick the guns defeat the other guns and all sorts. I'll explain it in the video. I do hope you enjoy it. So, the first thing I've done is seconds it lasts. Now, what I mean by that is how many seconds does each of the guns last if you're constantly firing it non-stop once you've picked up the initial ammo. So for the AR, it's 55. For the bazooka, it's 4. So if you constantly fire it, how long does it last? So the lowest one right there is the bazooka, because of course 4 shots, and it shoots every 2 seconds, so it would last 8 seconds, versus the car has the longest one. It would last 32 seconds, because of course it takes slightly over 2 seconds per shot, and then it has, for example, 8 shots. So that one lasts the longest. That's just an interesting thing I thought I'd put out there. Okay, next one is seconds to defeat. Now, this is based on the average amount of damage they are doing per second, and so, for example, if two of you stood there opposite each other and you're firing, so this is the, second column, by the way. If you're firing each other, how many seconds it would take to defeat them. Hence, for example, that's why the car would be terribly inefficient, as would the sniper, if, for example, you had a sniper and an SMG standing right next to each other. So this basically removes it doesn't account for range anymore. It's just, if two people were standing right next to each other, they're getting all their hits, they're firing at each other, who would win? And so, of course, the ones that have the lower seconds to defeat would always win, because it's just how it is. Okay, but again, for example, I'll show you in a short while why that seconds to defeat column is not accurate, because only on average damage, and also that's based on a player that has full health but no shield. So, for example, the bazooka is 2.9 seconds, but of course that's not possible. It would have to be 4 seconds because the first shot, then the second shot, because it can't just do like a half shot. But I'll explain that in a second. Now, value of damage. Now, this here, there's a couple of ways to calculate it. I calculate it a different way in the calculations, but the value of damage is basically the amount of shots you have times by how much damage each shot does. So, for example, let's say we take the sniper, we have 15, it does, 15 damage per shot, times you get 15 of them. So that equals 225 damage. Now, assuming that players have the 100 health, that then also shows you how many players you can defeat with the initial ammo based on the amount of damage per shot it does. It's actually be higher because of the criticals. But for example, let's say we take sniper, right? You could defeat 2.25 players by using all the, assuming you won't get any criticals, is with the damage per shot times the initial ammo. So that's pretty low too. I think that's one of the lowest. And the peacemaker is even lower, because it only does 7 damage per shot, and it does only have like 30 or something. But the highest is actually the minigun, which is interesting. But looking at these stats, actually, the minigun makes it appears way more favorable. It's only because it's inaccurate that it wouldn't do that. But based on the fact that it does 9 damage per shot and it has 80 shots, it could finish 7.2 players, like 7.2 players. That's a hang of a lot, assuming you are hitting all your shots. It would actually be, again, higher because of the thing. But that's just another category I thought I would put in there. Damage per shot, that's actually being calculated by something else, not by the actual me knowing the damage per shot. Interesting though, I noticed an inconsistency in the Car 99, because it based on the calculation at the end of 25.5 damage per shot, which means that either the damage per second is either out, or the bullets per minute is slightly out. But anyway, that's another thing. Okay, anyway, minimum shots to kill. Now, this here is indeed the minimum shots to kill, is how many, if you're, both standing there, they had full health, and you're shooting at them, what's the minimum amount of shots you would need? This is without criticals to kill them, and also I've rounded it up, so it is actually the minimum, because on averages, some of them were slightly lower. So, for example, the bazooka would take 2, because, you can't, do 1.5, so the minimum shots would be 2. It would be 70 damage, and then another 70 damage, and they'd be dead. AR would be 17, because 17 times 6. So basically, it's just like, it's the damage per shot, there's calculation for it, but that's the minimum shots. So, for example, the one that takes the longest is the SMG. It takes 20 shots to get the kill in. Okay, anyway, now this is the category. This is the juicy category that is actually the really interesting one. So this is the seconds to defeat. Now, I know I've got that column before, but this one is adjusted, because the other one was based on the average damage they did. This one is based on the minimum shots. So, for example, so it's based on the minimum shot. So it then means that the time interval between the shots is accounted for. So, for example, the bazooka, the minimum to defeat an opponent would be 4 seconds, because you need the 2 shots. So that is why it is how it is. But interesting, because so that there, I've done the blue ones because the blue ones are the ones that you'd actually have, you'd confrontate each other and have a fight. Whereas the white ones, for example, the Kar 99 and the bazooka and the sniper, you definitely never use that in the situation. You sort of shoot and run, shoot and run, shoot and run. You're not just standing there firing each other. But the blue ones, lots of people do just stand and fire at each other, understandably. So anyway, the seconds to defeat is one of the most interesting things, and I've color coordinated it with the lowest one. Now, interesting, the minigun comes out on top by a staggering taking just 2.9 seconds to defeat an opponent with full health if you're just standing there and getting all your shots in, which is really good. But again, that doesn't take into account the accuracy. But actually, after seeing that, it actually makes me think more favorably of the minigun, because actually, if you can get nice and close, it's actually like a really good AR or a really good one of the other weapons. Now, it's very, very close between, for example, the bazooka, the SCAR, and the shotgun. They're all very similar if you're all just sitting there shooting each other. Now, the worst one is the Kar and the sniper, because, of course, you don't use them in that fashion. But of the ones you do use in that fashion, where you sort of try and fight each other, the peacemaker takes 7.5 seconds to defeat someone. So the peacemaker, after looking at this, I think the peacemaker is trash. 7.5 seconds, well, I've always sort of known that, but now I think it's even more trash. So, it's definitely interesting. But although, actually, if you look at the SCAR versus the AR actually defeats it quicker than the SCAR. So, for example, if you both stood there and you both started firing each other, the AR would, if you're within range and you got all your hits, and the AR would actually win, or it might, of course, be you both die, I'm not sure, because it's just 0.2 of a second difference, which is very close. Although, I did calculate, if the SCAR gets the first hit in, because, the extra range, if they're actually having a fight, then the SCAR would win if it got the first hit in on the player with the AR. But it is extremely close between all of these, between the AR, the bazooka, the shotgun, and the SCAR, and they're all very, very close. And the bazooka looks amazing. Even the SMG is not far behind, because, for example, it's only on 4 seconds. But the problem is that even if, for example, the SMG got the first hit in on the AR, it would not make a difference, because it just, or if it got the first shot in on the SCAR, it's just that 0.5 of a second is enough to mean it gets defeated. And because it's that, that 0.5, that 0.4, that 0.6 behind those other main guns, that is why it's just not particularly efficient in defeating opponents. Now, the double barrel does not look very impressive as it currently stands there, but that is because it actually does mostly criticals, but in this one it doesn't account for criticals, so it's actually much, much quicker. It's about half that, and if you halve that, then it's the same as the other ones. And the shotgun then would be even more incredible, because if you can get that double shot, it can indeed defeat a player in just about double that time, so they get defeated in 1.5 seconds approximately. But yeah, there is the different ones I thought there. Now, I've got the calculations here, so I've got them by categories in the gold, and then there are all the calculations there if you guys want to check them and search them out. But yeah, that was the comprehensive gun comparison. This one here is the most fascinating in terms of actually being interesting seconds to defeat, as well as all these ones here. It just lists all the different categories, based on that kind of stuff. So I do hope you enjoyed it. Please give it a like if you learned something. Come on, no one knew all of those calculations. Well, of course the developers did, but very few people would have calculated all that. So you probably did learn something. So please give it a like, and please subscribe to my channel if you're new. And I do hope you enjoyed it. I tried so hard. I worked so hard on it. I know it's not as interesting as some of my other videos, but it kind of is the most interesting in terms of actually learning what guns are best, although not in terms of boom, 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 destroying all those players. Anyway, thank you so much. This has been your host, Supersight. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to seeing you again for another Battlelands video.